I was going to ask how much your workouts feel like a grind versus feeling like play.
So nowadays, when I'm working out, it's a grind for sure. It's like zero play. So I basically I've come to refine how I move, like how I train. I always have at least one day a week where I go play. Like where I allow myself to literally, I allow myself to just do whatever comes to mind, whatever I feel like in that moment, because I need that. I realized I need that balance of play, and it allows you to be creative. It allows you to like work different parts of your brain, and just basically you're doing like movement research, you know.
Mm.
And but other than that, like 3 days a week though, I am doing a legit strength training routine that is definitely a grind. Definitely, um, I'm exhausted by the end of it, and yeah, because like, right, I always want to build strength essentially, and there's always going to be like a month or something where things are off. I'm not able to work out with my routine like the way I was in the previous months, and it seems to be seasonal. Like in the wintertime, or if you go on vacation or something, like your routine gets thrown for a loop, and then it takes some time to like get back into the flow of things. But
Mm.
yeah, I think it's very good to have a balance between like have a routine that you stick to, and even if you're not motivated to do it, you force yourself to do it. Because I'm not always motivated to work out, but like I know I need to do it. Like I want to stick to my plan, and it's part of my discipline. Like I want to be disciplined. I want to push myself, because it's very easy to say no, I don't feel like it, I'm just gonna chill, like, you know but I know that that doesn't help you grow. You got to keep challenging yourself. And then
Mm.
if I only do planned out routines, I start to get dull and I start to dislike it. So having that one day at least where I can go slackline, or uh, go to the beach and play on those traveling rings, like it's just like it allows me to feel like that's a really good balance. Like that's just keeps me sane, so to speak.
Mm.
Yeah.
And with your strength training, how linear has your progress been over the years?
Uh, that's a good question. How linear has it been? I would actually have to look at my log, but I've noticed that. So I guess it depends. If I'm sticking to my routine where I'm working out 3 times a week, it stays very consistent and linear. If I end up doing only 2 times a week, then like yeah, you're basically spinning. I'm basically spinning my wheels. And if it's 1 time a week, it's just like barely maintenance. Like it is maintenance, but it's you know you're not gonna really get anywhere
Mm.
substantial with that. So it's hard to say how linear it's been over, let's say, 10 years' time. I know I'm like a completely different person now. Um, but I know that in the beginning, especially, like in the first year or two, especially, when you are, when you just start working out, your progress is not linear. Your progress is exponential or parabolic, because
Mm.
you're learning so many new movements. You're refining your form all the time. There's like, even if the reps don't improve, the quality of your form and tempo improve, and then your reps improve. Like there's like just constant progress, constant progress. Visually, there's progress, like physically, aesthetically, and then after you start getting into the intermediate or advanced level, the progress does not maintain that sort of that you can't at that rate, and you have to come to terms with that. That it has to be a lot slower, so to speak. I guess unless you're on steroids or something crazy or you're genetically gifted, you know, because in general you're now doing much harder exercises, and now you're going to take these much harder exercises and make them even harder, and it's much more stimulus and stress, and now your form needs to be even more intact, your chance of injury is greater. There's a lot more risk involved if you push yourself beyond fatigue on such an advanced exercise that's taxing your body to the limits of, to the limits. And so that's another thing that is very important is like I'm extremely conservative with how uh, how much I want to prevent injury. So the moment I feel like a niggling pain or like my joints just don't feel right, like if it's cold out and I'm working out and my shoulders just are not liking the cold that day, like I feel the cold in my bones and I'm not warming up, just like my strength output isn't there. I will just like, if any of those things are happening, I'll just back off and I probably won't do the workout, or I'll do like a regressed version of everything. So
Mm.
I'm I much rather be safer and just you know realize that I need to take another rest day probably, or wait for my body to be cooperating with me, rather than just push through it and risk developing some tendonitis, or a muscle strain, or like neck strain or something weird that is gonna put me back for 2 weeks. It's the worst thing. I'd rather just take a day off, make sure I'm good, make sure that was just a random off day, uh, and then get back into it with a more peace of mind. And I think that's really important. A lot of people, it seems like from my circle of friends, they they discover like a workout and they're like they go from like not working out to like I'm gonna do this 4 or 5 times a week, you know. And it's like damn, like 4 or 5 times a week, like I don't even do that, like like okay, and they do it, and then 3 weeks go by, 2 weeks go by, and then they get injured, and now they're like off, like now they're doing nothing. Oh, it's like it sucks, right? Like it's just like so I don't want
Yeah.
to be like that essentially. so
Mm.
um so yeah, like injury prevention is very important, and it just takes a lot of self-awareness, a lot of self-awareness. You just have to be very conscious and respect the signals your body is telling you. And in the beginning, if you're new to training, you're not used to all this movement practice and all these different things, you might not even know what the signs are. But as like anything else, you get more in tune with your body as you get better and better. You start to understand, like, oh, if I've had this feeling before. If I do this, another set of this, I think I might hurt my elbow or something, like, or my wrist, or whatever. So that's, I guess, intelligence that just comes with time. But you know how they say, like, you're gonna have to keep learning a lesson over and over until you actually like learn, like apply it. Like so, I guess some people apply it quicker than others. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a lesson I've had to learn a few times already, and I hope I've learned it now. But you never know. You never know when you just push yourself too much. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like there's this real like hustle culture around like discipline, kind of like the David Goggins mentality of you just got to push through, you got to push harder, work out harder, and that seems to be a problem with getting injured or burning out.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. It's very much a thing in the United States, especially. No pain, no gain. You know, just like. Well, that's not true. I mean, there's different kinds of pain. The soreness is all right, but like actual pain, like. But yeah, I
Yeah,
totally feel you on that. The hustle culture, it's misleading, so to speak. People should be realistic about their progress, and think, there's that always that saying, you're doing a marathon, not a sprint. You want to think in the long term. Anything you think in the long term, anytime you zoom out, it's much more chill, it's much more realistic, and it's not as frenzied and frantic, and you don't feel this weird like I don't know how to say it, but like this weird push that you have to do something in a certain amount of time or within by a certain date. Like that's what usually fucks with people is if they say, I'm gonna learn the front lever or I'm gonna learn the planche in 3 months. Well, I'm sorry to say, but nature has its own plans for you, and you can't just force yourself to do something very advanced in that time you made up essentially.
yeah.
So, and definitely I've definitely come to terms with that. I probably sacrifice progress for, like I probably could progress faster if I really pushed myself hard all the times. But it's hard to say because it's hard to really know if I was gonna get injured and then how much time that puts you back. So it's really good. Just I space out my workouts with rest days and just try to do things as logically as possible without feeling like I have to work out because I have to look a certain way by a certain amount of time. It's like, no, I got like the whole lifetime to keep looking good and, just keep working on my goals, and it doesn't really matter how long it takes.
Hmm.
Because time is always passing, right? Like whether you start something now or, like whenever you start something, you're like, damn, I wish I was doing this like years ago, because like I love this thing. I wish I knew about this earlier. How could I have not known about this thing? But you just start it, and then like the years go by anyway. So those next thing you know, you're that guy who has years of experience doing something that you were like back then. You were like, oh, I wish I started when I was young. So like
Yeah.
that's what happened with me and skiing. Like when I was 18, I started skiing, and I was like, man, like why didn't I do this earlier? My parents never ski, so like they never like took me to the mountain. And I was so bummed out because I see kids skiing, and I'm like, man, if I was a kid doing this, like I would have been so advanced by now. But now, it's been 20 years I've been skiing, and now I'm like really good. And that time just passed anyway, right? Like just it was, like, so it didn't doesn't matter in the end. Like just enjoy yourself, and yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, impatience seems like it leads to injury or at least to burnout often. People
yeah.
want things in as quick a time as possible, which is really understandable if you're a beginner. I think you want to look good, you want to get strong, you feel like you really have to catch up. I guess you're comparing yourself to people who are way more advanced than you.
Hmm.
You're not
Yeah,
seeing that they also started somewhere.
yeah, that's true. I guess that's true. Right? This feeling of you have to catch up, right? Like, oh, I gained. I'm so overweight. I need to lose a bunch. I want to lose all this weight, and like, let's say that's the scenario, right? And the thing is, like, when people get motivated, they like really just go gung ho sometimes, and they just go from 0 to 100 all of a sudden, right? And just at full force,
Mm.
I'm gonna kill it, like, but which is good. But if you can maintain that motivation beyond the month, and like tone it down where it's realistic, then you can make it sustainable, right? And that's really the key. And I guess the best way to do that is to really figure out what you love, like what you actually enjoy doing, because that's the only way you're going to keep doing it like for a long time. So yeah, and if you don't know what you love to do, it's good to keep experimenting, keep trying different just different ways of moving your body, different sports, different exercises, until you do figure out like which exercises you do like, and you can always like, and then all of a sudden you can have like a variety that you can always fall back on, and you don't have to like just do this one thing. You can have so many things. Like you could be boxing one day, you could be dancing salsa the next day. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like they're completely different things. Boxing is this endurance and strength, and it's got its own skills. But then dancing has completely different skills that makes your brain work in completely different ways. Where you're still moving your body and you feel good afterwards. You know, no one goes dancing and they don't feel good afterwards. You know, even if you like force someone like, come on, just like dance for, come on, and they're just like sitting like, no. You force them up and like they dance for a minute and they smile, and it doesn't matter how they dance, right? It's just like one of those things. So if you find what
Yeah,
you
man.
really enjoy, it's just like, I think that's so necessary. It's sad if you don't know what you like, and if you don't, you have to figure it out really.
Yeah. So do you have different workouts? Say if one day you're not really feeling it, you're much more tired, but you wanted to train strength that day, would you do a different workout?
I do have a lot of things I could fall back on. In general, so if I'm not strength training, I'm riding my bike, and I live at the foothills of a mountain range here. So the moment I exit my house, I could just start climbing. So
Right.
I love to just go like make it do a challenging bike ride. So I'll just start like doing that, and then I'll bomb the hill, down, and that's really fun. Other than that, I like to go swimming, weather permitting, of course. I also like to go surfing. Again, if the waves are right, it's a seasonal thing. And what else? I mean, those are my main things. But I also, will go to a yoga class once or twice a week, and I guess I'm pretty active now that I think about it. I start saying all these things that I do. I'm like, man, I do a lot of things. It's a
Yeah, I know
little,
what you mean.
it's a little more than most people. And speaking of salsa class, I do go. I like to force myself to go to a salsa class once in a while, even though I'm not very good. I like to do things that are put me out of my comfort zone, and they're challenging, and salsa is definitely it. I'm not good with my footwork and timing. And the crazy thing is when you're doing salsa, so if you're a man, you're the leader and you're leading the woman. And so now you actually have to think of what you're doing and what they're supposed to do. So like you have to think of for both people. And it's just like
Mm.
way hard, way difficult for me. So it doesn't come naturally, and I like that. I like that it like, exposes a weakness in me, and in the end, I feel really good that I just tried. And even if I wasn't good or wasn't getting it, you still get something out of it, even though it feels that way. And those little like lessons or classes, like over time, like let's say years pass, I'm gonna be better than the average Joe at that point, right? So, and that's pretty cool. I don't mind just you know having that little thing. For example, even if I'm not great at it, I'm not gonna be in the Olympics. I'm not gonna be like I don't have like crazy aspirations to be the best and outbeat everyone on Instagram or like unrealistic things like that. So yeah, that reminds me. I found out there's dodgeball. There's like
Okay.
pickup games for dodgeball for adults on Fridays here, and so I'm gonna start going to that once in a while now. It's just like I'm like, oh, I miss dodgeball. That was so much fun when I was a
Sounds
kid.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like there's and I used to go to soccer like 2 years ago all the time. That was another thing. And I kind of fell out of it. Um, I just, I always like switch it up, you know?
Hmm.
So that's fun. It's just fun
Yeah,
exploring what you like.
yeah. I think often it's easy to get in this headspace of you start something like you start boxing and now you want to be like the best boxer there is, and years pass and maybe you fall out of love with it, but that's what you do now. So you feel like you have to stick with it, and you're always trying to get better and better and better. But really, if you're not trying to be a professional, it doesn't really matter how good you are.
Yeah, that's true. And there's no shame in like, it's the same thing for like, not just boxing. I mean, not just exercise or physical movement, but also like your career. If you've always been doing if your career has been one thing and you don't actually like it at all, it makes you feel bad. You realize this is not your passion. You're not fulfilling your life's purpose, and you feel that intuitively. And and inside you are supposed to do something else, but you're not doing it. Like, that's one of those things. It's a very tough choice to switch a career, but it's in the end it's worth it. Being like just sticking to like, well, this is my identity, this is what everyone knows I do. Well, it's okay if you really like, if you have to make that change, you it's for yourself. So it's very important that you have that self-awareness and just respect it, I guess. Yeah.
Hmm. It's always a tough one, changing things up. It's always a
Yeah.
risk.
Yeah. Yeah, change. What do they say? So there's two things. Like, change is the only constant.
Hmm.
That's for sure. And also, at the same time, humans are really averse to change. Like, as you get older, you get really stuck in your ways, and
Hmm.
change is scary, and it's harder. It gets harder and harder for people to adapt and mold to these changes. And if you're aware of that and understand that you should try to keep up with the times, you're going to be way better off. The more like malleable your brain is, the more like tolerance you have for change, the better. Otherwise, you're going to be that old guy who's like, this new generation, they don't understand, you know? Because I can see
Hmm.
myself, I see my friends who are in their like late 30s, early 40s already thinking that way. You know, they're bashing things that the new generation is doing, just like how their parents would be like, what is that rap music? Like, it's like
Hmm.
new kind of music back then for them, like that they were like, what is this? This isn't music, for example. Like,
Yeah.
and it's really important to be aware of that, I guess. And I think what helps a lot is to have friends that are of various age groups. It's always good to have friends younger than you.
Hmm.
Older than you, sure, but younger than you, it might be hard to find. But if you, I think it's really healthy to do that. It's like a subtle thing I've noticed, and because I've noticed like so I have a few friends that are in their 50s and 60s who go to Muscle Beach, and they're like really cool people, like they're my parents' age, let's say, and they are just so cool. I would have never thought that they're from my parents' generation. And I think what one thing I noticed is that these people establish relationships with constantly with people of all age groups all the time. So they're not limiting themselves to this bubble and way of thinking that is, I guess, it kind of makes you hardened and solidified in certain ways and ways of thinking. It's pretty healthy to just be open to new things all the time, essentially.
Mm, mm. Yeah, going back to the comfort zone you were saying earlier, do you
What
make a
was that
point
again?
to
Sorry.
g- going back to you talking about getting out your comfort zone with salsa? And
Yes.
that seems like something that's easy to let slip. Like the less you practice getting out of it, the less you want to. And with all the lockdowns we've just had with COVID, it seems like a lot of people get stuck in these routines, myself included, where you
Hmm.
don't want to go out and try something new.
Yeah, and you have to force yourself, because eventually you're gonna say enough is enough. Like I'm sick of moping around. Like you deserve more. You deserve the best. Everyone deserves the
Mm,
best, and whatever the best is for you is personal. I felt that way. Like last year in 2021, I kept feeling like I don't have the same motivation and inspiration that I used to do. It was like sort of like an existential crisis. I was like, why am I not as creative? I don't have that creative spark. What's wrong with me? Uh, and then eventually I realized I'm just like, I do have it. I'm just overthinking and I'm just playing some weird victim and moping around. And it took some months, but like I eventually told myself, fuck all that noise. I'm better than that. This is all bullshit self talk, negative self talk, that was
mm,
just kind of on a loop, and it's just like you're digging your own grave doing that. Like when in reality everything around you is fine. Like so sometimes you have to just kind of I don't know, like man up. I don't know what to say, but just figure out what the solution is and just persevere through it. Sometimes you just have to push yourself, man. Like to break out of these things is like negative self-talk and stuff, and really you can try to get help as much as possible, but in the end it's really gonna have to come from within you to resolve itself. And I think everyone goes through that, though. Eventually you all go through that. Everyone goes through that.
mm. You
Yeah.
can't really fix the issue if you're not even aware of it, though. Like, how do you go about building that self awareness?
Yeah, meditation is probably one of the keys. If I meditate for like, I tell myself for like, let me just meditate for like, I'm standing like, let's say I'm standing in line at the grocery store and it's a long line. It's an opportunity for me to meditate. Instead of like looking at my phone, I'm just gonna like just focus on my breath. You know, and you don't necessarily have to close your eyes even. You're just focusing on your breath, and that 1 minute is so calming. Anything that can help like quiet down the noise from within and the outside world will help you to just become more self-aware. So the problem is like differentiating that noise from the pure, clean signal, you know? And the more I feel like you meditate, the more you'll be in touch with your intuitive feelings, and you'll be aware of the signals your body is telling you, let's say physically or emotionally. If you're in a relationship and intuitively this girl or guy is not right for you, but you're just in a toxic relationship and you don't have like the balls to break it up, let's say, or to put your foot down, let's say. I don't know, like I'm just making stuff up, but like internally you know what the answers are, but you're not it's not going to come to the surface and become like in your face until you kind of like stop the distractions and really meditate for a bit. And I think that's like the antidote to the modern day, uh, just the modern day lifestyle that we have with our cell phones and computers, and because those aren't going away. So we need tools
Mm.
to counteract it. We need to keep moving our body, because it's easy to like do. It's you can physically be a vegetable and make a living nowadays, and just laying there, never leaving your office, always sitting, just driving your car, and technically you're making a living. But are you living your life? Are you alive? Well, you're a human being, and human beings still need to move to work out their to maintain a certain amount of strength, to maintain good joint health and all that. So that's one aspect. But another aspect is like all these devices are just adding and distracting us and destroying our attention spans. So we need to like counteract that, or the mental side, with meditation. And sometimes physical activities could be meditative. Like for me, bicycling is that. For other people, running is that. When they're just running and they can just jog for a long time, it becomes a meditation, because there's nothing else they can really think about, or they get into a flow state where they're having very clear, inspirational feelings, or thoughts. Like their stream of consciousness is all of a sudden super clear. And for me, when I ride my bike, because it's just like my body's busy and it's just doing this repetitive thing, and it's just challenging enough to get my heart rate up, and I can't really think about too much, but whatever I do think about, I get into a nice flow state. That is that could be my point. Is sometimes physical practices could also be meditations in themselves. It doesn't always have to just be one, like literally, like, closing your eyes and crossing your legs.
Yeah.
Although, but I do recommend that, just like even just laying on the couch and say putting a timer for 15 minutes on your phone, and just telling yourself, I'm going to close my eyes and just focus on my breath until the timer goes off. And if you catch yourself like thinking, overthinking, just like get yourself back and just like, okay, no, I'm just going to focus on my breath, because it's training. It's a different form of training, essentially. And if the more you could do that, the better off you're going to be. You're going to be like always one step ahead of everyone else, I feel like, if you have some sort of practice where you can differentiate all the shit in the world and know what is valuable to you, what is worth your time, what is worth your attention, and what isn't,
Also, having time for rest and recovery for your brain, the same way with training.
Big time.
I think it's often easy to feel like we need to be productive or need to be busy all the time. I think you talked about this in one of your vlogs. So how do you balance your lifestyle and your goals with taking time to rest and recover?
I guess it just kind of comes naturally nowadays, because I am active enough. I never feel like guilty when I do have a rest day. So, rest days are the norm. Like in between, like any vigorous uh, day full of physical activity, the next day is always a rest day. That's how I see it. Unless I'm using like a completely different part of my body, then it's okay. So like if I was bicycling today and like my lower body is just destroyed, tomorrow I probably won't do it again. I'll do my upper body strength training, for example, no problem. And that's a cool way to balance that out. But in regards to uh, productivity, always feeling like you always have to be productive, I've gotten better about that over the years. That used to be a big problem where I always felt like if I wasn't doing something productive, that I was wasting my time. And I think that just came with age where I realized like you really have to just stop and smell the roses. Like uh, there's beauty in that, in just pausing and being like a little content with where you are, realizing that everything is okay right now. You don't have to be doing something right now.
Mm.
And I'm not sure how that developed over time to specifically that. It's a tough one to pinpoint, but but hopefully everyone gets there.
I guess the meditation helps with that, with being present.
Probably, probably, yeah. That's it's like hard to say like what's what. There's just so many confounding variables, um, but I'm
Mm.
sure that's a key element.
Mm. When
Mhm.
you're working out, if you've got a goal, do you tend to do a lot of different exercises around it, or you stick to one or two?
Uh, that depends. So I like to alternate. I would say there are some parts of the year where I just like focus on one or two exercises only, and I find that simplicity is really nice. Like let's say I'm working toward the front lever or a one arm pull up. Like either of those are really difficult exercises if you achieve them. So it's enough of a training stimulus to just work toward that, you know? So if you're working toward a one arm pull up, you are like you're basically working out really hard toward even though it's that one goal, you are really training most of your body. Sure, it's mostly a pulling exercise, and you could technically do a pushing exercise as well. But like my point is, I will focus on one or two goals like that once in a while because I find that I will progress faster if I have that focus as well. So if I'm doing
Mm.
the like currently I'm not doing that. Currently I'm doing a full body strength training workout 3 times a week, and my focus is on building maximum strength and hypertrophy, just like building muscle mass and strength, and it's my whole body. So I'm doing like push-ups, rows, pull-ups, dips, bicep isolation, tricep isolation. Like I'm doing all around everything,
Mm-hmm.
and that that's because my goal is to get my whole body as strong as possible. However, if I want to focus on a specific goal, like or a skill, like it doesn't have to be just strength. It could be like a skill, like a handstand is a no, it doesn't take much strength, but it's mostly skill work. Because once you build the endurance to be able to be in a handstand against the wall for a long time, you've pretty much reduced the strength and endurance component of it. And now it's more about what does it take to balance upside down, and then figure out the nuances of what it takes to balance in it, right? And that you will have much more progress doing that almost daily rather than just like once or twice a week, or like you're doing a bunch. Like if you're doing a bunch, you have like 10 goals and you're working on all 10 all at once. It's you're not really gonna get anywhere far with any one of them,
Mm.
and it's a tough thing to do. So it's healthy to go to both extremes to find out what you like, and sometimes you will gravitate toward one end and gravitate toward another. There's no like wrong or right way. It's just more like whatever you do first, you're going to be the best at. Whatever you're whenever you're fresh, you're going to be really good at whatever you put your energy into. And if you have one specific goal, you can just focus on that goal sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that until you feel like you know, eventually comes a time, it could be a few months in or less or more, where, you're just exhausted and just frankly bored of this uh, one goal that you had in mind, and you've come a far long way, and you could put that on maintenance and then move to another goal, for example, or do a whole like well-rounded thing, and just
Mm.
so that there's so many ways to dice it. There's so many ways to go about it, and there's no right or wrong ways. There's many valid ways to just like work out or feel good in your body.
Mm. What about for you in your personal life though, with big goals like the front lever? How do you find your workouts have looked? How has your progression looked getting there?
Uh, like with specifically, so like for like with the front lever. So with the front lever, like I remember this happened in like, so when I first wanted to learn the front lever, I was like a noob, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna learn the front lever in like 4 months, and it's like now I know that's like
Mm.
impossible. So unless you're like 5'3", you're really short, you're really light, unless you're like really,
Mm.
light and short, or you're a child, you're not gonna learn this move really fast. The leverages are just too great, and um, and so like I remember like the front lever. I remember like all I was doing was working on just the tuck front lever, where your knees are all the way in, and like you're just focusing on having straight arms and being able to go in and out of it, right? And I did that for a long time, and then I lost like um, I didn't care as much toward training it, and I put it like on the back burner. And then I wanted to get back into it, and I trained myself to one leg front lever, where so like one leg is tucked in and one leg is straight, and working on
Mm-hmm.
like the more I can or the less I can tuck that leg, the more advanced it becomes, and playing with that. I played with that for a while. I don't know. I guess like a year or something. I was just kept focusing on that, and I was really happy that I have a really solid single leg front lever, and I can extend it a bit as well. But I never made the push. So like I never made the push toward full front lever, because by then I got like kind of sick of I just got sick of doing front lever all the time for months on end. It's
Yeah,
like
of
my
course.
brain wanted some different stimulus, some different thing. And so now I've reached, so every time I reach a certain goal, it's cool, I'm happy I reached there. I'll put that on maintenance, do something else, and then when I get back to it, I can like progress. And so, next time I get into it, maybe I'll go from a single front lever to a full front lever, or maybe really close. And it's taken years to do this, because I'm not working out for years on end on front lever. It's just an on-off relationship essentially,
Mm.
and that's how
Right.
I find it's sustainable, because it's like the years are passing by anyway, and I know I'll get there eventually. And the one arm pull up, for example, so I found out the one arm pull up is basically the hardest pulling exercise that you can do with your body, um, harder than the front lever, and it could take 4 to 8 years to achieve this move. And that is pretty nuts.
It's a long
So
time.
it's a long time. It's a long time for sure. And if you're overweight at all, or you don't have the right foundation for your basic pulling strength, like these, then it's going to be an even greater handicap, right? So like everything kind of needs to be in order, for this move to be possible. And that move also has been very similar to the front lever, where I've made like great progress with it, toward it, but still I'm like a beginner. And then I take like 6 months off of it and work on other things while I still like, maintain it once in a while. And then when I get into like a training block where I'm just going to focus on one arm pull ups again, I'll do it for like several months and like get, have breakthroughs with it. And until I feel content with where I've come and I start to feel like I'm kind of getting bored with this, and then I'll switch it up. So I've found that that's like the best way to work with these high level high level moves. Like it's just like not realistic for me personally to just, be able to just train something for years on end every
Mm.
day or every other day nonstop. Like, yeah, that's probably the only way I can make it like sustainable. And it's one of those things that like front lever and one arm pull up, like I will probably always go back to, because I love the aesthetics of a one arm pull up. Sorry, of a front lever. I don't like the aesthetics of a one arm pull up. I think it just looks kind of ugly, actually. But because it's the hardest pulling exercise I can do, I think there's a I think it's really admirable as a goal. And if I do achieve it, then maintaining my pulling strength at that level is going to be pretty epic. So that is really motivating. That if I have that level of strength, then that's like really cool. Like very, I just want to impress myself.
Mm.
you know?
It's like reaching level 100.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm.
Until you discover weighted one arm pull ups. It never ends.
Yeah, it never ends.
or like there's a or like the one arm front lever, right? There's like the world record for the one arm front lever is like 28 seconds. It's like, okay, guys,
Jesus
like
Christ.
one arm, 28 seconds, like no joke. Like 28 seconds of a regular front lever is like basically impossible for
Mm.
99.9% of people, let alone like one arm front lever. But that's what happens when with the exposure of the internet. We see the highest level athletes in our societies, just and we see them a lot, and so a lot of people think that that is something everyone could do, or that's a way everyone can look. When in reality, you're seeing a very small segment. Like you're seeing like a subpopulation and like a subsect of that, like it's an advanced level of people, and then you're seeing the most elite of the advanced, and there's a
Mm.
lot, seemingly a lot of them. So like especially on Instagram, there's a lot of high level athletes, elite level, but really, it looks that way because there's billions of people in the world, and those people can boast themselves. And if you're looking for that kind of stuff, you're gonna find it.
Yeah.
But in reality, these people are like the cream of the crop, to the max. And so it's never a good idea to like actually compare yourself to them or their bodies and how they look. It's good to aspire to their goals. If they inspire you, it's great. But
Mm.
to um, to feel like, if I he could do it, why can't I? It's a good mindset to have, but it can also be depressing for some people that they're not able to get to that level. You know, it's like if you're like the most genetically gifted person and you had everything just right for you and you've been doing this since you were a kid, it's very different than someone get as an adult who's just starting to get into the basics, for example,
Yeah, yeah,
and yeah, that's like a huge issue. Perception is a bit of a mind fuck.
mm. Yeah. It leads to you setting really high expectations for yourself, but
Yeah,
you don't actually know like what motivates them or where they're coming from or who's been coaching them.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
and
it
like
can,
the fitness
yeah,
industry, is riddled with drugs.
mm,
It's riddled with performance enhancing drugs. Like you don't know who's juiced up, who's doing what. Like it's a it's like a superficial world in a way. It's like when people are just showing off their six packs and stuff, like, but you don't know what's there, like what's really going on with them, and like a lot of people think like, oh, I want to look like that, and like even if you do end up looking that way one day, great, but you're gonna realize that's not like the end all be all, and it really doesn't make much difference in your life.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's just like the same
yeah,
thing when like money, like after there's that study done like after it shows that if you're making like making up to $70,000 a year, between $0 and $70,000, the more you make up to $70,000, the happier you'll be. Okay, so like if you're in the poverty level and now you're not, and you're making like 70,000, you're much happier, right? Because you're having your needs met and then some. But they found out like beyond 70,000, it's not going to necessarily make you happier. Because once you have those basic needs met that money's providing, money can provide only so much, right? Like, so you could
mm,
be a billionaire, right? And that billionaire might not necessarily be as happy as you. They might not have relationship, or that celebrity, right? People want fame. It's not necessarily a good thing, and everyone could just recognize you on the street. Like it's just like it might seem that way when you're young and immature and like, oh, money and fame, but really it has
mm,
its weird downsides. Another set of
for sure.
problems, like the song goes, "More money, more problems."
Yeah, yeah. It seems like uh, it's easy to get caught up in what other people think is cool. It goes back to you talking about self awareness, to knowing what you value, and having some kind of like some like bigger picture of values that you're always trying to move towards, such as just enjoying your life day to day.
Pretty much, pretty much. You have to focus on like what really matters to you. Kind of, find out what your priorities are. Try not to get too influenced by the influencers,
Yeah,
because like a lot of these influencers, they're sellouts, man. They're just straight up sellouts. Like they don't give a shit about the products they're boasting. Like they're just doing it because they're getting a commission, or they're getting paid in some way, or they're just putting essentially an ad up, or you know, and that's cool. You can make a living doing that. Like, but I'm not gonna do that. If I'm making a video review of a product on my YouTube channel, it's because I genuinely like it and I use it and I find it's like actually legit. And it takes me like months to vet that, like to really like come
mm,
to terms with like, okay, this is something I could share. You know, even if you paid me, I get emails all the time. You know, we'll send you this free product. You want to try it? And like, massage guns seem to be like all the rage now. So like, I've turned down so many massage gun reviews. Like I just don't care at this point. Like
mm,
they're all very similar. Like I'm not gonna just review your a Chinese knockoff brand and say, this one is pretty good, like you should buy it, or this one, like I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy, man. Like the amount of things people can sell and do sell, it's kind of nuts. It's just, I guess that's okay. It's fine. It's just not my. Everyone has different priorities. Like some people are motivated by money and they don't care what they're boasting to other people, while others don't have that filter, I guess, or I don't know what it is, honestly.
Yeah, man, it's a tough one. Anyway, going back to training, got a bit sidetracked. Uh,
That's okay.
so, do you see a lot of common mistakes people make with their training?
The thing I said earlier, where like people get really excited about something and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this like 4 or 5 times a week," all of a sudden they went from doing nothing to 4 or 5 times a week. That's like a very common thing I've experienced a lot of times. People need to be more even keeled with how they're approaching their fitness, so that they can do it without injury and allow enough rest and recovery. And it really helps. It really, really helps to set some money aside and get a coach or personal trainer to help you reach some goals. Like, and this is coming from a person who, like, I never wanted to do that. Like 10 years ago, especially. I really didn't want to because money was tight. And like, but any, if you do have the money, even, like to do that even once, it's very, very beneficial to, um, because there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of like nuances in training for your specific. Let's say you want to lose weight or gain muscle or learn a certain move. There's so many nuances that you might miss that will help speed up your progress tremendously. And having someone personally on a one-on-one basis do that is actually really worth its weight in gold if they know what they're talking about. And it's hard to say who to recommend for what. Everyone has different goals and different interests. Like someone could be in martial arts, and like I'm not, like, let's say someone's doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, they wouldn't come to me, for example. So you would find who you can have a private session with and really
Hmm.
to help you out. That's another thing that's kind of it takes more money, but it does help really speed up your progress. Um, Similarly, if you have any joint pains, seeing a physical therapist is really good in that regard as well. But the problem is a lot of people don't have like patient compliance, they call it, where the physical therapist gives you the exercises and you're like, okay, cool, I'll do them, but you actually don't because they're
Hmm.
boring and repetitive, and like you feel like it's not helping because it's only been a week and it's not gonna just get better in a second, in a day or two. Like it's something that you have to just keep on for weeks on end, and it's boring and repetitive. So you have to trust the process, I guess, and take video of your form whenever you're exercising. Just like, even if you think you're doing it right, just every once in a while, it's a really good idea to just set your phone up, take a video of yourself doing the exercises, and just when you're resting, review them, and you will be able to spot things you can improve. And if you're not sure, you can always show, like on Reddit, for example, there's form checks you can submit, or if you are working with a trainer or you know someone who knows their stuff and you can just send it to them and ask them for advice. They might be able to spot something that you didn't catch, and that helps speed your progress a lot as well. Um, yeah, and overall joint preparation is really good. Having a thorough warm up, I think, whether it's with bands or without bands, or there's a million ways to warm up, but having a thorough warm up when you're a beginner, I think, is very nice because it gets you in tune with your body. It helps you not just warm up, but it activates and engages like different muscles so that they are kind of primed and ready to go. And I find that as you're more advanced, you can get away with less warm up, or like the exercises that used to be like your goals are now your warm up.
I saw your
that,
video on that.
yeah, which is really cool and crazy that that can happen. But but that's pretty much what happens, I guess, as you get more advanced. And yeah, like it's nice to have a warm up. Uh, and because it not only just for the warming up aspects, but like it has this like prehab effect where you're like strengthening your joints as well, so that you prevent injury. And yeah, that's all I can think of right now. Those are a few different things. So yeah, unless we get into some specific topic or something. So
Hmm. I was going to ask you about flexibility because you're very consistent with yoga, and as you were saying earlier, training your flexibility. So, what role does that play in your fitness?
I generally like uh, being like I generally like to have a certain level of hamstring flexibility, so I can have like pike compression, or basically pike like if someone doesn't know what's pike compression, it's basically the ability to compress your body like doing a forward fold as to the max. Like traditionally it's like can you touch your toes, okay, and like how far deep can you go, that's like that aspect. um, Other than that, like I really like also working on my middle splits and front splits, only because they're like really cool. Like I think it feels good. I feel really good doing it, and I do my muscles feel genuinely. Um, my whole body feels really good after such a session every time. And then, but overall, like another thing is also like I like to stretch my lats, like the upper back muscles, so that my handstand line could always be straight. So that's like a functional reason. But other than that, like I like to do my yoga because stretching like every muscle in your body just feels really good. And just overall, it's a nice way to counteract. It's just a nice way to counteract um, all the strength training that I do, and
Hmm.
um, I feel like it's just one of those different modalities, and yoga makes it into a fun way where it's not just about doing sets and reps of something. It's just a different way of approaching something. So like someone could get flexible doing yoga, and someone could get the same level of flexibility doing it with sets and reps of specific exercises. It really depends, just like what you are enjoying and what your specific goals are. So flexibility is a huge topic, um, and it's difficult. Oh, that's another thing. It's really difficult. I feel like if you want to if you want to exceed your current level of flexibility, I think it's harder than strength training, mentally and physically. Like the amount of mental fortitude you need to endure that pain, it's like a excruciating pain that's different. It's not like you're causing damage where you're like literally hurting yourself, but it feels that way, or like it feels painful when you reach certain limits, especially when you're like stretching your hamstrings or your hip flexors sometimes, when you feel this stretch, it could sometimes feel really good, but sometimes it could just feel really painful, essentially. And for that reason, I find that it's more challenging to do flexibility training. So,
Mm.
but of course, if you put your mind to it, you could just persevere through it, and that's part of the. I guess that's part of it. Like that's part of why. It's part of why yoga is really cool because you are stretching once in a while, and you are focusing on your breath, and you're connecting like movement with the breath. Sometimes inhaling with the move and exhaling with a different move, and that is like its own flow. And so, yeah, nitty gritty flow process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I found focusing on like trying to progress with stretching. It doesn't really motivate me. It can be very frustrating. Like you can go a long time and see no progress at all with your flexibility. So
Hmm.
I find it's easier just to relax and enjoy it for what it is, rather than really um,
Hmm.
getting motivated by just progress.
Yeah, if you have like specific goals for flexibility, um, it's good. You will have progress. That the problem is it's hard to gauge the progress. So it's not like like weightlifting where you're like, okay, I'm just gonna increase the weight by 1 kilogram, and you just keep like increasing it. You know what your progress is, but like
Mm.
flexibility, the progress is measured in millimeters, and sometimes you have regressions because you've just like been going too hard at it, and like your body needs a break, and now all of a sudden you feel like you're less flexible than before, and this could be really annoying. But I think the real problem is the inability to gauge the progress in an accurate manner. So that could be like it could feel like you're going nowhere. It could feel like um, it could be really demoralizing actually, and that's part of the process of like having following a good program that if you do have certain goals that you want to increase with your flexibility, having a good program that is made by someone that you trust, like me, or if you have a personal trainer or someone who makes a routine for you, it's very important so that you do at least trust the process to be able
Mm.
to stick to it. Otherwise, it will feel like torture and something that you don't want to do, really, right?
Yeah, if you doubt you're going to get the result that you're after,
Hmm.
it's tough to stay motivated.
Yeah, big time, man. So I just realized it's almost 1 o'clock here, and I gotta go soon. So this has been
Sure,
really good
sure.
chatting. I have like a few minutes if you wanna ask anything else or anything, but um,
Yeah, I just had one more question about diet. Actually, I wanted to ask.
sure.
So, do you follow any kind of diet routines like intermittent fasting?
Intermittent fasting is probably like the only thing I'm really consistent with, where essentially I don't have a traditional breakfast. I might have tea or coffee, not so much coffee. I don't like the way the caffeine affects me, but I will generally like try not to eat breakfast. And when I do eat my first meal, it'll be closer to noon,
Hmm.
and so that is I'm very consistent with. And then I used to do the ketogenic diet for like 2 years, um, but it's a bit too extreme, and I don't need to do
Mm.
that. I've realized like but it taught me so many lessons about, which foods are high in carbs and which aren't. And so now, in general, I try to avoid breads, pastas, rice, the high carb, low fat, low protein foods, essentially. Like high carby foods, I will tend to eat them sparingly, is the best way I could put it. So I'm not necessarily on a ketogenic diet or anything extreme like that, where I'm eating like almost no carbs, but like
Mm.
I will, I won't have like many noodles or whatever. Like I'll have more veggies than meat, essentially.
Okay.
And something I did for uh, back in the day when I first wanted to lose weight, I started counting my calories with the app called MyFitnessPal, which I really recommend anyone do if they've never counted their calories. Essentially, the have you tried it personally or
Yeah, I've had a period of about, I think, 4 months
yeah.
where I counted my calories. It gives you a good it gives you a good skill of being able to estimate roughly how many calories you're eating in a meal.
Yes, exactly. And you're just logging this food, you're understanding what a serving size really is and how much food that really is. And then it's also making you super conscious of what you're eating, right? You are because if you don't count your calories, you might think, "Oh, I haven't ate much today." But like if you were counting your calories, you would be very very aware that no, you've had like you know you had like bread and cheese in the morning, then you had like this snack, then you had this other snack, and you would have totally forgotten those things if you didn't log it. Is my point,
Yeah.
and there's a huge lesson. It might even reveal like logging your calories might even reveal like your triggers. Like so, I noticed like if my father called me I would like if like a few minutes went by, I would start like gravitating toward the kitchen and just like opening the cabinets, and like because he would be stressing me out, and apparently like I'm gravitating toward the food as like a coping mechanism or like some form of like stress relief, and like
Mm.
I was doing this subconsciously. I had no idea until I started logging my calories, and I noticed this pattern that my father called me, I'm logging my calories now. And this trigger. So like you might notice other triggers that you have or something or another. So there's a huge lesson in that, especially if someone wants to gain weight or lose weight.
Mm.
The calories in versus calories out is the best way to go about it, really. And ketogenic diet is really extreme, but it has its lesson. It has its lessons, um, and it's really good to be aware of like what you're eating essentially. But other than that, I'm not like too crazy restrictive, and like it's not like I'll never have fried food or anything like crazy like that. Like I'm still gonna enjoy my life, and I think the
Mm.
nutrition aspect of life is we still have so many holes in it, like in our understanding of what nutrition is or how uh, food affects us. Like we have this huge 1,000 piece puzzle set, and I think we've only got like 100 pieces fit in. Like we really don't see
Mm.
a whole picture of health and nutrition because most of these studies they're not random. They're not like double-blind randomized studies when it comes to food and like let's say if the Mediterranean diet is the best or whatever diet is the best. Usually they're observational studies or they're scientific backing is mild to moderate. It's not like the most convincing things because there's so many other variables and it's such a complex thing. And a lot of these studies, they're self-reported, what they're eating, so it might not be accurate. And They might just be looking at one study might be looking at one variable. How does eating this food affect this one thing? And like eating eggs like makes your cholesterol higher, let's say, right? Oh, all of a sudden eating eggs is bad. Well, no, it's not that simple.
Mm.
Like there's so much more nutrition in that, right? And cholesterol is the backbone to every hormone in your body, and every cell membrane of your body is made of cholesterol. Like this is like to say it's bad because like it's like you can't just have one study picking out one variable, have that dictate your whole understanding of eggs, for example, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is what I mean by the whole piece is still like very incomplete. But eventually, I think as we get close, I think in like what are we, 2022? I think in like 30 years, I think in like 30 years, we might have a much more legit and thorough understanding of how nutrition really affects us. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, the danger seems to be in thinking you really know it all when you don't.
Oh
This
yeah,
kind of thing.
that's like really bad. Yeah. The people that know the most are probably like registered dietitians, but even they can't admit they know it all because it's just like really impossible. Uh, like some people have to eat vegetables, otherwise they'll be constipated. Personally, I don't need to eat vegetables. I'm fine. I digest pure meat with no fiber just fine, right?
Hmm.
But my fiance is not like that. Like she has
Hmm.
to not eat like that, for example. If she otherwise she'll be, it's indigestion or constipation or something like is not going to be good, right?
Hmm.
And my point is every single person is different and is affected completely differently. So and there's so many different kinds of food, and so until we figure this out, it's going to be a long time. Yeah.
One more question then before you go.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any advice for using your diet to manage your energy levels to keep them constant throughout the day?
I think I think the intermittent fasting was one of the best things that helped me to do that, because before all throughout my life before that, I used to eat breakfast and like I always thought I had to have 3 meals a day. But when you don't eat for like 16 hours, you get really good at like regulating your blood sugar, and you don't crash. You don't like have these ups and downs. So that's probably like one of the easiest things that helped me to not rely on food overall. Um, but like if you are exercising or especially cardio and you is something long, you want to keep going, having a little bit of sugar definitely will give you a boost. Like this is like huge, like hugely apparent. But I don't do that much, like it's not often that I ever feel like I need that or something. But if someone is really training at a certain level, they will see some sort of boost there. But sure, sugar can come in many forms. So it could be like a piece of fruit, let's say, or something like that. So that's other than that, in your training, protein is going to be key to have enough of, just so you are providing the building blocks for your muscles to repair themselves. And if you want to grow your muscles, you need enough calories in general, with the emphasis on that protein, because your body doesn't have any protein stored anywhere else. It's just your muscles. So
Mm.
if you're not eating enough protein, your body will take it from your muscles, and you will actually, if you starve yourself for a long time, sure, you lost weight, but was it a high quality weight loss? Probably not, because you lost fat and muscle. You know what I mean? And you want to like mitigate how much muscle you actually lose. You just want to focus on losing fat in general if you want to go on a cut. So those aspects, are some of the major ones are that are really important. If someone has not getting enough protein and they start eating the a good amount, like good amount more, make an effort to have a little bit more than usual, they will generally notice that their rate of recovery increases, and
Mm.
they will be able to work out more regularly. So that is generally really, and unfortunately for the ethical side of things, meat is the easiest way to get meat, fish, chicken, poultry, whatever. Like meat is the easiest way to get this protein. Like
Mm.
you're not gonna sit there and eat like a jar of peanut butter, like 3,000 calories of peanut butter to get like the same amount of protein like 4 ounces of like steak will give you, or chicken, or something like, or fish, salmon, like you name it,
Mm.
some animal protein. So unfortunately, for the vegans out there, um, this is meat is a part of life for I would say almost all people, and I'm not like afraid of stepping on anyone's toes here, because anyway, like almost no one's a vegan anyway for a long time. Okay, 85%
Mm.
of them will not be a vegan in 3 months. In general, that seems to be the statistic. It's not a long lasting diet in reality. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna keep you any longer then. If you have to dash off.